Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TVs, and movies, we'll go from the Mojoverse to Earth 616 to Queens, New York, and bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I am the man without fear, Chris.
And I am the unworthy fanboy Clay.
Alliance
Alliance
Assemble.
assemble.
Wow, here we go. Volume 97. And you know what? Just like the crossover of epic crossovers, we have the crossover of Marvel and DC again. Clay has graciously stepped in to take Brent's spot tonight. Brent is on secret assignment, and he is transversing the multiverse as we speak, and going to bring back all the secrets from the TVA. But Clay, how are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. We were just speaking offline for a second. Wife is currently staying with my parents. She's taking the morning sickness kind of heavily.
Mm-hmm.
So we're doing a small experiment to see if it's something in our house or if it's just, bad morning sickness. Because I've
Mm-hmm.
heard that, some people could have it really bad, some people can have it very mildly, and then some people just don't have it at all. So
All true
all I know,
statements.
all I know is she is doing okay right now. My parents are taking care of her, which means I get to have boys' night with me and my dog, and so we're kind of just chilling. Chris asked me to jump on here, and we're gonna be talking some Marvel.
Yep, talking some Marvel. So, but yeah, no, the week's been good for me. Lighter week of podcasting. Next week it'll pick kind of back up. That's how usually recording weeks sometimes go when I've got World's Finest and other things. But I enjoy it. So, but yeah, speaking of the lovely network we're a part of, let me do those network plugs. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 8 shows. On Mondays, we've got my show, World's Finest True Believers, alternating bi-weekly with Ranger Alliance, which is hosted by our illustrious co-host tonight, Clay. And you have been going 2 weeks in a row since I had to go 2 weeks in a row, and we will be going back to the normal bi-weekly schedule effective next week. So I appreciate you also putting forward an extra episode than you had originally planned.
Hmm.
So, but we'll be back next week. And hey, what about timing? You are my returning guest next week. We won't say that
Yes.
we won't say what the book is. Watch out for that preview tweet tomorrow. But it was a fun episode. It was a book I'd not read and a book I was very happy at the end of it to have read. So
Yeah, it was a very interesting book when I first read it, and I was really glad to be able to introduce it to you. So it was a lot of fun. Everybody, go check that out on the GUA.
yep. So that'll be dropping Monday morning, and then on Tuesdays we got DC Alliance. Wednesdays superhero discussions. Thursdays Star Wars Alliance. This show on Fridays. A walk through the multiverse biweekly on Saturdays, and on Sundays biweekly Slice of Film, which is returning in April with alternating co-hosts joining Katie. At that point, Sarah, and I can't remember her other new co-host.
It's going to be Mark,
Mark,
who
got you.
is
Yep.
also a part of Full Circle Cinema.
Yes.
He was a part of the GUA Geekverse charity stream. He was one of the Rangers there. We won against Snell. Just had to throw that out there again. You know, it wouldn't be a show without me dogging on Snell at least once.
Hey, you know what? He's going to be editing this and producing this later, so I'm sure he'll definitely be muttering under his breath as well. So, but yeah, that'll be turning in April, so be on the lookout for that. And if you want to check these out live on YouTube, you can go to the Geekverse Podcast YouTube stream. And on Mondays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, DC Alliance goes live. Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Star Wars Alliance goes live. And this show goes live on Thursday nights at 9:10 Eastern Standard Time. And each one of those shows has their own separate solo podcast feed, separate from the GUA. So if you just want to listen to these individual and or the GUA feed, we got both options available for you. So check those out. And then we've also got our Patreon. So want to throw a couple of shekels our way. 2 tiers. We got our dollar tier. It's our tip jar saying, hey, we think we're doing a good job. And then we've got our $5 tier, which is our ad-free episodes, Patreon exclusive shows, and all the good stuff. Brent and I are recording our third episode of We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance MCU rewatch. We're recording that next Friday with Iron Man. So that'll drop the following week. So we're excited to. I'm watching that tomorrow night for the rewatch. But yeah, a lot of great stuff with Patreon. Katie just dropped 2 Patreons. She wanted to really hit the ground running, focused on the novels and of Star Wars, and then the comics with her husband joined her.
Yes, I had the opportunity of editing and producing that one as well. That was a really fun listen. The introduction of Matt being in partially in the GUA now was really, really fun. He is not a big reader, so I said, hey, reading is always better with pictures. So he jumped on with the comics, with the High Republic. They covered the first 10 issues of that. So if you are a patron, go check that out. If you're not, like Chris said, it's $5 to get all of that exclusive content.
We got a lot of it already in these first 3 months. So all our patrons, I hope you're enjoying this. We can't do this without your support. And I want to give one more plug. If you have not listened to the big DCA review of the Batman, please make sure you check that out. It was a lot of fun. Good long talk, some hot takes from this gentleman right over here, but a great conversation amongst it. We've got some interesting opinions, interesting thoughts at that point, and even Mr. Snell joined us for that one.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. We had a little bit of a little like retrospective immediately after with Katie. On our 99th episode, gave her thoughts because she wasn't able to jump on to the review. So if you would like to hear her thoughts, it's on that episode as well. We talked box office as well. Looks like a pretty good start to the Batman. And just a small little jab. I told Heinz on that episode, even mediocre movies can still make it big. A la, sometimes Venom, Not gonna say that Venom and the Batman are on the same level, but some people might think so. So,
Well, I got to throw those really hot takes in there. So, well, definitely check that out if you haven't already. It was a good discussion, and check out if you want to add the making sure you check out this week's for Katie's thoughts as well. So. All right, so if you can't join us on Patreon, make sure you rate and review the Marvel Alliance solo feed and the GUA feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever podcatcher of choice may be. And as always, last but not least, plugging our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for all your omnibus collected edition and hardcover needs. So see that ticking time clock going down. This is the time left to secure your pre-orders for this current solicitations. So I got the Marvel stuff pulled out. Ultimate Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 2 has been solicited, so that's great. That'll be coming for first time. Star Wars Legends, the Rebellion Omnibus is coming out at that point. 2 covers for that. Captain Marvel coming out. So we got some great stuff. Predator is coming back after it was taken out due to a lawsuit. And this is another big one. Miracle Man, 3 covers. They are publishing the entire run by the original author, and that is what they have to name it because Alan Moore wants nothing to do with it, so that you will never see his name on this. But it is a very, very before its time story. So check that out as well. So again, if you want to do that, want to give OPB some business, we appreciate it. And I would like you to remind you to use that code MARVELGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. You can use it at limited times. It lets them know that you are a listener from Marvel Alliance. So again, we want to thank Organic Price Books for being our sponsor. All right.
Yes, and before we jump into that, I just want to say, if you don't believe me or if you don't believe Chris with Organic Price Books, we actually just had a great listener of ours, Charlie, order stuff from when he won the $100 gift card from the Star Wars Alliance giveaway. I need to see what he all ordered, but he was very satisfied with the service there. So if you can't take us for our word,
international too, and
he's in Canada. Yes, he is in Canada. So take him by his word. Organic Price Books is a great service. Y'all should definitely be using it.
Definitely. So, All right, so our main story tonight. Well, we got a surprise. We got another surprise. We can't go a week without talking about this one character, and this week is no thing. So, Madam Web is coming back into the forefront, but it is an interesting one. So Morbius has now switched release dates with Madam Web, and Madam Web will now release this April. In a few weeks, the new Madam Web movie will come out. Morbius will now release in October of 2023. I mean, they just cast the Madam Web. I haven't even seen a trailer. A trailer might be coming out tomorrow. I mean, I have no idea what Sony's doing. I mean, who do they think they are doing this? I mean, they're really taking it by storm. Morbius will never see the light of day, I swear.
I am surprised you were able to get through all of that without cracking up. For a second, I didn't know what you were going to do. You were like, I was like, wait, what? This? Are you what? I don't have these notes. What's going on? No, it. You guys with Madam Web. I want to see. I still know that Bryn is very much interested in it. I know that you're kind of iffy on Morbius. I am waiting for Morbius to blow the socks off of you guys.
I will be the first one. I'll be happy to. Like I said, I will go and see it. I'm just not particularly excited about it. I mean, but I will give credit where credit is due. At least in the trailer, the visuals on Morbius do look pretty good. So
Yes, they do. And I will say Sony is really leaning hard on the Marvel Legend thing. I've seen the TikTok like 6 times in the last week as the advertisements go on TikTok. And it's like the very first thing. It's like the next Marvel Legend. And it's like boom in the entire trailer for 1 minute. I'm really going to be looking forward to it, but I'm not holding any light to it. I will say that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. S. Bubs agreeing Madam Web has been fully filmed for years, and they just deep fake the actress into it. Nathan in the chat, Agent Aunt May coming soon. And S. Bubs saying Shang-Chi was the blueprint. Hashtag Shang-Chi with the blueprint. Well, there we go. All right,
Makes
well,
sense.
seriously, if you couldn't tell, that was not a real story. But again, it's just fun to come up with these as they just come in my head, just having some fun. Since we don't have a main topic, we just have a few news stories to kind of look at tonight. First up, new rumors place the Scarlet Witch at the center of 2 upcoming MCU projects. This is coming from Murphy's Multiverse is putting out this story right now and kind of crediting some of the scoopers. So according to Scooper, My Time to Shine, hello, Marvel Studios is keen to get Elizabeth Olsen back in action in a big way following her next appearance in the Doctor Strange sequel. Scooper claims that Wanda stands will get to see the Scarlet Witch not only in the adaptation of Alan Heinberg's limited series, Avengers, The Children's Crusade, but also in a solo Scarlet Witch project. Though the scoops indicated both projects are in development, no additional information was given, and when they would be appearing. So, given a lot of the rumors for Wanda's appearance, the Children's Crusade seems like a really good fit. I mean, I know one of my Fact or Fictions has said that she is not going to die. She will just either disappear or be on the run at that point. And also considering if her children do come back into play, they are young Avengers within their own right, which is what the Children's Crusade kind of focuses on in the search for Wanda. So I'm all about this, especially with the more we have seen, what we have seen of what Wanda's role is going to be in Multiverse of Madness. I think more and more people are going to claim for a solo project and more of Scarlet Witch.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with the Children's Crusade. I will be completely honest. But I am very much looking forward to what kind of dynamic the Scarlet Witch will have. We have seen, of course, WandaVision showing her as a broken character. So we as an audience have shown or have seen a side of her that is, yes, crazy, but at the same time, we can kind of give that remorse to her and be like, okay, we understand what's going on. But we see her in these small snippets of trailers that we've seen in Multiverse of Madness, and we're like, okay, Are you bad? Is this another variant of yours? Like, what's going on? You know, I am interested to see where the MCU is going to hold her, and if they will hold her accountable for what happened in the events of WandaVision, if that's really going to change the dichotomy between her and the rest of the MCU. So I'm interested. I'm very much interested, and with her performance of WandaVision, I need to see her in the limelight again, I feel like.
I think, we said it before, her performance in WandaVision really took a lot of people because it was the first time we'd gotten much more involved with Wanda as a person. She was very much always in the background. People wanted to know more about her, and so WandaVision really, in that costume at the end, oh my gosh, what an amazing job they did
Yes.
improving that to be as comic accurate. Now, the Children's Crusade, without getting into too many spoilers, it is post House of M. It
Okay.
is basically kind of almost the search for Wanda at that point, and kind of seeing where she disappeared to post House of M. Because at that point, all we left were with a panel where she is in this fictitious country, and that's the last we heard of her. So
Yeah, I ended up reading House of M for the very first time during the 2020 shutdown.
mm,
Was looking for some new books that I have not read. House of M being that one. Great read for anybody who hasn't read it. Highly recommend it.
that is
Some would
also going to be, I'll do a plug, that is now officially going to be solicited for the first time in omnibus format coming out later this year.
Yes, I did see those covers for it.
hmm
I am very much looking forward to the Copel,
Oh, yes.
we learned how to say his
Yeah,
name in
yeah. We
that's
did. Yep. That's a
what it
hint.
is. That is a hint. But it was oh shoot, I forgot how to say his last name. But
Quitel.
it's Olivier
Yep.
Copel.
hmm
That's what it was. Uh, I love that cover. It is definitely going to be a book that I heavily ponder on pre-ordering for that omnibus.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good one. In the idea a solo Scarlet Witch project, it will be one that I would really like, and I think the article on Murphy's Multiverse kind of points that out. The other idea could be James Robinson's 2016 solo project on the Scarlet Witch. I read that last year, and that was really surprisingly. I had no expectation going out. I really enjoyed that run. I think it's about 12, maybe 16 issues at that point, and definitely one that if you haven't read, it's quite surprising.
I did not jump into reading Marvel Weekly until about 2018, so I
Okay.
barely missed it. But if this is possibly something that it could be going after, it will be on my reading list.
hmm
Um, I have slowly started to love the character of Scarlet Witch. She hasn't been used a whole lot recently, in comics wise. But I have just fallen in love with her character here in the MCU, and I want to know her backstory for sure.
Yeah, Nathan. Yes, Doctor Doom is involved in the Children's Crusade. Yep. So could be. We still haven't yet have an introduction to Doctor Doom, so that is still a little bit of ways away. But yeah, so we'll go from Wanda to A Devil in Hell's Kitchen. So next story is new evidence may point to the Daredevil MCU project is in development. So according to Murphy's Multiverse, a new production LLC was formed less than 2 weeks ago, titled Blind Faith Productions, likely to belong to Marvel Studios, which is a sly reference to Murdoch's Catholicism and his literal blindness. In response to this report, Murphy's Multiverse, in response to this report, Geeks Worldwide Casey Walsh seemingly confirmed that it is indeed the Daredevil project and that it would begin filming later this year. Walsh also reached out to Disney for comment, though the company denied the project's existence. He said, "Looks like my source said late this year, but I did ask Disney and they denied it. Big surprise. But it wouldn't be their first, second, or third time they denied something that, to me, was revealed to be later to be true." My Time to Shine Hello also corroborated the project's existence, stating that it would begin filming in late 2022 or early 2023 and see the return of the cast of the Daredevil series. So that is very, very interesting. especially with next week we get all the Netflix shows and Agents of Shield going on to Disney Plus, so that's going to be big. But with this story, Charlie Cox has been he's done a few cons out in the Middle East, and I found this quote that's kind of made the rounds. Besides bashing the costume of Ben Affleck's. I mean, people put that into a big thing. It was just like he didn't like the costume. He's not bashing Ben Affleck. In fact, he actually praised Ben Affleck, and he just didn't like the costume.
Mm-hmm.
So, but in a Comic-Con in Abu Dhabi, he said, "I've learned it's better not to speculate out loud in public because then it becomes a headline, and then instead starts to warp expectations. It becomes a conversation, whether that's a good thing. So I've learned to keep it to myself. The only thing I would say, I don't think it makes sense to pick up where we left off. I think in keeping a lot of things in the MCU right now, where there's a kind of this alternate reality kind of thing going on. You know what they did in Spider-Man No Way Home and Into the Spider-Verse, so it's a good moment to have this. There's been a few things that have been passed, and I don't know it's Daredevil, but maybe it's not quite reimagined. It's slightly different. It's what I texted one of my friends when I found this out all was happening. It's Born Again. It's like homage. So, sky's the limit. Let's see. So it sounds like if he had his druthers, season 3, they should not pick up with season 3. They should, at the very least, kind of do that again in some other form, but pick up somewhere else.
Yes, and I do have a fact or fiction about this, so I
Okay.
won't go too heavily into it. But it's a very interesting concept. This hasn't really happened before in the MCU, where they've picked up a property and said, "Okay, you had a continuity somewhere else, and let's drop it here." You can say you have the opportunity to do it when we finally see Daredevil. I mean, not Daredevil, Deadpool. Because Deadpool, fourth wall breaking, can kind of play around with anything. Daredevil joining into the MCU because Brent, like Brent always says, it was never really a part of the MCU, and it possibly still isn't a part of the MCU, but it's now something that Marvel owns. So I will be interested to see what they really do with it. But like I said, I have a fact or fiction about it, so I will keep my opinion to when we get there.
It's really like you said. It's one of these ideas where what do we do with the stories? How much do we acknowledge it? Do we acknowledge anything of it? Do we accept since we're bringing it onto the Disney Plus platform? Can we get away with a lot more and expect people to do the homework? Because again, it's the MCU, as deep as it is, there is some decent homework you can do. It is not necessary. You can enjoy the movie, but they're also gotten to the point where they can't hold your hand through everything anymore.
So SBubs actually says here, we might know the answer if it's in the MCU in a week. Now, of course, this is when Daredevil actually drops on Disney Plus, if I am correct. And I'm assuming what SBubs is talking about is if it drops in the MCU timeline on Disney Plus, or if it drops in the like Marvel Legacy or whatever they call it on Disney Plus. I can't remember off the top of my head what they call it.
What was that you said?
Is it the Marvel Legacy that they call it on Disney
Yeah,
Plus?
yeah, Legacy. Yep. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's gonna be that will be a big sign of Brent and I will definitely be watching, and also what they do in the opening of the show. What fanfare do they use?
Yes, that is also a big tell as well.
Mm-hmm. So, but again, I don't think it's been any denial. I think the other thing Charlie Cox has said a few weeks ago is that he knows one thing. Obviously, he's not going to say anything. He knows one plan for it, but that's all. He says I'm probably he's probably getting sniped at that point, but he does admit he does know one thing that is planned, and I think
Feige's always watching,
he's
Cox.
always watching. I think the one thing he said he wants is that he feels that the DD being on the costume. If they're going to keep the same costume or a new costume, he wants that DD on it because the
That
Netflix
would be
one didn't.
so good.
Hmm.
I would honestly love it if they put it on there. I think uh Dan Mora, one of our favorite
Yes.
artists out there right now, he did one in the midst of the hype of Daredevil Netflix. He did a small sketch with the new costume, but
Hmm.
he put the DD on the chest, and I just like if it's just a small detail that just makes everything
Yeah.
so much better.
Especially bringing Charlie back into it, I say that we can grant him that. I think Feige can grant him that small request.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're going to take our first ad break before we head into the rest of the news. So as you know, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on in the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you a 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. So, all right. Well, going from Hell's Kitchen back into the Sony Spider-Man universe, whatever they call it these days. You know, if it's not Madam Web, if it's gonna be Kraven the Hunter. So we've got back-to-back castings, and this is where I kind of get a little confusing. And they're both coming from. They're both of these are scheduled to. They're both calling themselves the villain of the movie, but I don't know if one's going to be the main villain. I don't know if it's going to be a team up. I have no idea. So we're just going to take these as face value. They're both at least comic accurate. They are villains. So Deadline reported that the Many Saints of Newark star Alessandro Nivola is set to join Sony Pictures' Marvel movie Kraven the Hunter, starring Aaron Taylor Johnson in the title role. It's unknown who Nivola will be playing, other than it is being a villain of the film. And Sony had no comment on this one. Nivola continues to build momentum following his star turn in last year's Sopranos prequel, The Many Saints of Newark. And the actor has had a number of impressive projects and his 25-year resume, including Jurassic Park 3 as a young man and American Hustle about a decade ago. Later on, he's been part of the A-list ensemble as David O. Russell's movie that includes Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, Robert De Niro. He just wrapped the 20th Century pick Boston Strangler, starring opposite Keira Knightley. So I've seen him in a few projects at that point, so no one really has speculation on what villain he's going to be, but Deadline sources say he's going to be a villain. So,
I am unfamiliar with this actor, and honestly, when it comes to a Craven movie, other than the antagonist, because as far as I always knew, the villain was always Craven.
yeah.
So if Craven is our protagonist, who could be the villain or AKA the antagonist? I always thought, okay, it must be Spider-Man. I haven't really seen or read anything where Craven was really in the limelight and wasn't attached to Spider-Man. I know it's very, very limited recently. Most recently for me, I read Daredevil, the Woman Without Fear, where
Hmm.
Craven was hired by a kingpin. Won't go into too many spoilers, but he's gone after Elektra. But I haven't really seen anything else. So as far as other villains that are possible for this, I have no idea who this person could possibly be playing here. All I know is this movie's looking a I'm not
It's
gonna
getting
say crowd.
interesting.
I'm not gonna say crowded, but I am gonna say interesting.
Hmm.
There is a lot of high profile actors, quote unquote high profile actors, being attached to this film,
Hmm.
and I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, and we said it before, and we'll head into the other casting in just a second. But it's just one of these projects, kind of like my feeling with Morbius. It's just like I like Morbius as a character. Never was pining for a movie about Morbius. I like Craven, kind of like Craven as a character, but he's never been the one to say, you know what, I really want to see a solo project. But I do not mistake me for saying, who asked for this. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying it wouldn't be on my list of possible projects at that point. But
Yeah.
like you said, some of the castings have been very interesting and definitely gives us some pause. But the one villain that we do know some stuff is coming from Deadline is as well another exclusive is they believe that their sources telling them the Catch-22 star Christopher Abbott is set to join this movie. And their sources say that Abbott will be playing either the main villain or a villain called the Foreigner. Foreigner is one of Spider-Man's adversaries in the comics. As
It says biggest adversaries.
It says biggest, and I'm like, is it really? Because even I had to stretch my Spider-Man knowledge at that point, and I really have to ask Brent when we speak tomorrow, saying, would you consider Foreigner one of his biggest adversaries?
I can't remember the last Foreigner story that I read.
And
I mean, technically, he was a part of Nick Spencer's run.
He was.
He played a very minor part, but he played a part of it. So maybe that makes him a big part. I'm not entirely sure.
I guess some information about the Foreigner they go into. He's an assassin for hire who was formerly married to the international mercenary Silver Sable in the comics. The two of them attempted to kill each other over the years, fighting their battles like a game, until they eventually reconciled when Sable nearly died from terminal injuries. In addition to being an adept martial artist, Foreigner also has the ability to put people in a 10-second trance if he makes direct eye contact with them. This makes his opponents believe he can move at superhuman speed or make a clean escape, leading people under his influence to believe he has vanished. He's typically a Spider-Man villain for the wall crawler at that point, very tech-savvy, and, butts heads with a tech-savvy villain called Chance. And so, yeah, this is going to be interesting. Now, the actor is best known for his breakout role in... Oh, my notes just closed down on me for a second. Bear with me as I get my backup. All right. So, so he's best known for his breakout role in George Clooney's adaptation of Catch-22, which earned him a Golden Globe nomination for Best Actor in a Limited Series. Abbott most recently was seen opposite Jared Carmichael in Carmichael's directorial debut on The Court of Three, which premiered at the Sundance last year. And his next project will be Poor Things, which is an Apple and the Apple TV anthology series, The Crowded Room. So, unlike our other casting, I am completely unfamiliar with this actor.
Yeah. And just like the other one, I also have never heard of this individual before. The only thing that catches my eye is the Foreigner. Is the fact that he is playing the Foreigner. Like I said, I have read a little bit of his stuff most recently with Nick Spencer, actually involving Silver Sable and kind of just the underground that the Foreigner has been a part of in the past. I don't know the connection other than, okay, Kraven is a hunter. You can kind of call that an assassin. Foreigner is an assassin.
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe they've crossed paths before. Like we've said several times already, this is turning into a very interesting film. We, as a collective, some of us, I'm sure, once Venom came out, we're like, okay, how can they do Venom without Spider-Man?
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of getting the same feeling with Kraven, which is weird because I'm not necessarily getting the same feeling with Morbius. So it'll be very interesting how this develops. You know, there's we've heard plenty of speculation and fan theories of Garfield jumping back into the Sonyverse.
I mean, all of us want it. All of us want it.
For sure. So we'll see.
Yeah. So as the more and more casting comes up, I mean, this is basically signaling they've got to be very, very close to production. You know, these castings don't just come out and they just, we just decided to cast. I said, no, these have been in deals. They're just ready to start talking about them. Their planned leaks are starting to talk. So
yeah,
but All right. So our last story is going to be interesting because it ties into Star Wars Alliance a little bit because of what's going to happen. So Miss Marvel Disney Plus update. I'll put confirms in quotes a June release date. So the Hollywood Partnership Committee shared an update on upcoming road closures for Hollywood Boulevard. And on it, Miss Marvel is slated to have a red carpet premiere June 2nd, 2022. This indicates that the MCU series will premiere on Disney Plus within the following 2 weeks for a early to mid June release. CEO Bob Chapek earlier confirmed during the Disney's annual shareholders meeting that Miss Marvel would be the next Marvel Studios project to release after Moon Knight. Moon Knight's Hollywood premiere is set to be March 22nd, which is a week before the worldwide premiere on March 30th. And based on that trend, given Miss Marvel will have a premiere on June 2nd, this means the show's rival will likely be June 8th or the following week. A June 8th premiere, though, for Miss Marvel will indicate that it is to coincide with Obi-Wan Kenobi on Disney Plus. I'm not sure what episode that would be for. It would be episode 3 then at that point?
I believe so because it's going to debut on the 25th, I
Mm-hmm.
believe, which is let's see here, going back, May 25th is going to be, sorry, uh, the Wednesday. So 8th, right, is what we said?
Yes,
Or
yeah, they're saying if it holds to with Moon Knight doing a red carpet premiere the following week it debuts. So if it holds to that, then it's either the next week would be June 8th.
yeah, so it would be the third episode of uh, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Hmm. So this will be the first time, and we've kind of talked about this of when it was not a question of if, it was a question of when. Even though there are more Marvel shows that are ready to go and they are close to ready to go in the can than Star Wars at this point. You would think, okay, at some point it's going to be a crowded release slate, and so
Hmm.
these are two very different shows. Being Obi-Wan Kenobi and Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel, as we've kind of heard and what we've seen of it, is a little more, not I'd say a little more of the younger kind of appeal at that point.
Yes.
And so, but again, we have not seen a trailer. We have just seen kind of sequences and scenes. So a trailer probably will be coming in the next, probably towards the end of Moon Knight at that point, as Disney doesn't like to promote too many things all at once. But this will be an interesting test because again, Wednesdays have been the releases for Marvel and Star Wars projects outside of the Bad Batch. So it'll be interesting to see them go head to head and how that's going to work in the sense of numbers.
For sure. And I've actually just thought of another
There
fact
we
or
go.
fiction. Me and Chris were talking right before this, talking about how if I was going to be able to come up with some facts or fictions by the time we actually get this on the road and started here on YouTube. And I only had two, but now I have three.
There we go.
Um, and in regards to having the two shows coming up at once, like you said, it was inevitable. This was going to happen. I think that we as a collective knew, okay, Disney owns a lot of IPs.
Hmm.
And so you're going to have to put content down. So is it really realistic for you to have one day to just drop, all of your stuff? Because let's be honest, nowadays, especially now with your Netflix, with Apple, with Disney, with HBO, with Amazon, what's the other one? Paramount.
Yeah.
For people who have majority of these, you're basically getting cable. It's no longer just streaming services. It's just cable at this point,
It's
guys.
cable a la carte. You got to eliminate all the other stuff you didn't watch before.
Exactly. So it is going to be interesting to see what happens after this. Um, will they shuffle things around? Will they make new plans? I feel like these next few months now. This says it's going to be in, like you said, Bob Chapek actually confirmed that this will be the next MCU show after Moon Knight.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't the new slate when we got it at the very beginning of the year saying that She-Hulk was going to be right after Moon Knight?
I don't think anything was ever said officially about that. I think some people thought She-Hulk was a little more further done than Miss
Mm-hmm.
Marvel based on some of the like reshoots and supposed like screenings they've had and changing some things
Mm-hmm.
at that point. So that, but in all honesty, She-Hulk is the one that's going through a lot more of getting the visual effects ready. And we know
Yeah.
what happens when you don't have visual effects ready. Some delays happen. Stay tuned for our post credits discussion. um, but so I think more people were thinking that, but never was too sure about that. So it this is one of those situations where I don't see Disney. I think Disney's going to still keep to that Wednesday release. I think a couple of reasons for that is because you already have Amazon and HBO really kind of holding true to their Thursday releases, even though Amazon says Friday. Well, we all know they premiere stuff early on Thursday, so we're just going to lump
Mm-hmm.
them into that. And a lot of them don't like releasing Fridays because Disney likes putting out on Disney Plus some of their movies and things like that. And also their big releases, big releases come out on Fridays. So they want good streaming numbers. And so midweek has kind of been their kind of flag in the ground. I mean, I'll even say like Paramount Plus, like everyone does Thursday. Paramount Plus does Thursday. Discovering Picard drops on Thursdays. So
Mm-hmm.
I think this is one thing that Disney's going to keep instead of crowding in another thing on Thursdays. They are one of the, if not the only ones doing any kind of releases on Wednesday. So I don't see them altering that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it all kind of depends, how Obi-Wan Kenobi goes. That'll be episode 3. With Boba Fett at that point, it was very mixed. This is not Mandalorian, but this is Obi-Wan Kenobi. This is something that can cut across fandoms in the sense of age, that everyone has seen a version of Obi-Wan Kenobi. And this is a time period that a lot of us have been wanting to see.
Yeah, I was just talking to my co-host for Batman News Weekly right before we started recording, and he said Obi-Wan Kenobi is legitimately the only piece of Star Wars content that he is actually interested in watching in the last 4 years. So that is very, very telling
Mm-hmm.
for how people are looking at Obi-Wan Kenobi. But it is going to be interesting to see how a show like Obi-Wan Kenobi, where I feel like it is for all ages, whereas yes, Marvel Miss Marvel
Mm-hmm.
is for all ages, but it's kind of targeted towards the younger audience. So we'll see how well that plays for them, especially with, you know, I honestly think that the debut numbers for Miss Marvel will probably be a little bit lower than what the rest of the shows are because of the aspect of it being for a younger audience. But
And a
Marvel is
completely
still
new
Marvel.
character. Yeah, and a
Yeah,
completely
and
new
new
character.
character.
Mhm. But they did say one of the things that did come out this week is one of the wrap parties, things like that. They get gifts and things like that. Well, apparently one of the gifts was a tumbler that had Miss Marvel, but underneath it said season 1.
Ah,
So
okay,
so
okay.
it'd be, are they already kind of giving this, because again the big thing with Marvel is that the only second season we have ever gotten confirmed is Loki. Everything
Hmm.
else is either been deemed a limited series a la WandaVision, or we'll just kind of wait and see.
Yeah.
So they don't want to commit themselves to something, but I thought that was very interesting that some official crew merch parting gifts was said season 1. So again, hope for the best, and I will. That's the one I'm going to be kind of watching again. I do not think it can stand toe to toe in numbers with Obi-Wan Kenobi, but it will be very interesting to see how that performs. So, but all right, so that is all the news. So before we get into listener feedback, Fact or Fictions, we'll take our last ad break. So again, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. So I'm going to give you that 3 count to turn that volume down before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. All right, so got some questions. Brent put out this Spidey signal, so we got some questions coming in, and we'll start off with our good buddy, the Brock man at Brock Was Right, asks, which gets released first, Flash or Morbius? This is a tough one.
Oh.
I'm going to let you take this one, Clay.
Oh man, I came onto Marvel Alliance at such a great time. I will say I do think that Sony is going to keep the April 1st showing. There will be a lot of discussion coming on Monday night about the Flash and the rest of the DC slate. I have a lot of opinions on that, but nothing is
opinions? No.
nothing is necessarily confirmed for the reasonings behind everything other than Black Adam and Super Pets, really. So I will go with Morbius. Morbius is definitely going to be coming out. With I will say this though, and I will reiterate this on DC Alliance, but with Flash coming out 2023, that movie has been planned and in development for what will be 9 years. That movie was rumored to be announced in 2014, later to be confirmed announced in the 2014 Comic-Con, and then gone through development hell for all of this time. We saw the silver lining for them to just take it right back.
Yeah,
Oh man.
it is now the third movie to have 6 delays. First one being Wonder Woman 1984, Morbius, and Flash. Flash has had 6 dates from March 23rd, 2018, I think that the mystery made that was April 16th, 2018, July 1st, 2022, June 3rd, 2022, November 4th, 2022, June 23rd. So
Yeah.
it's going to be, yeah, I think right now, again, just joking aside about Madam Web taking that spot, I'm pretty sure Morbius will probably hold it, even though, you never know. They did pull the plug. It was a month till release, a little less than a month at that point, but I think I don't want to get a final trailer for Morbius, but I'm pretty confident Morbius will definitely beat Flash at this point. So, joking aside. All right, we got Mr. Travis Snell asking us, when do we get the Thor 4 trailer, Thor Love and Thunder? And my cheeky response back to him through the Marvel Alliance account was, when do they release it? When it comes out. That's when they'll release it. When it comes out. But
I saw, I think it was Brandon Davis over at comicbook.com a couple weeks ago, basically saying that we were due for a new trailer. And I'm gonna have to take marketing advice from my co-host Hines over there at DC Alliance. You don't want to promote something before another product is out. And right now, all of marketing is on Moon Knight. You're focusing everything on Moon Knight right now. We are at this point 21 days away from the release, I believe. Isn't it at the end of March?
Yep, that'll be March, and that'll be Marvel Alliance's 100th episode.
Look at that. 100 episodes. Oh, man. Great for Snell. Coming back on the 100th episode on the debut of Moon Knight. Oh, man. I do think that we will. I would say 2 weeks out of the premiere of Moon Knight, or 2 weeks after the finale of Moon Knight is when we will get the Thor Love and Thunder trailer.
Yeah, the current release date for Thor Love and Thunder is July 8th. There have been no indications that will be moving. I kind of was a little worried about a month or two ago. I said, oh, shoot, I had to look at the calendar because I'm going on vacation during that time. And I was like, oh my gosh, am I going to miss the review at that point? And I said, nope, I will be coming back July 7th. I will have a ticket in hand. So after I get unpacked from our family vacation, I will be going to a theater, and that review will happen on July 8th. But never. I keep on telling Britt, I really do have to start putting these movies on my calendar so I don't have to have those
I'm
worries
sure
again.
Britt has a countdown for every
Oh, he
single
does.
one.
He's shown me. He's taught me how to do this. I just haven't done it yet. I know, no excuses. Play like a champion. But yeah, it's went from some of the scoopers I follow. There is a trailer that is pretty close, if not ready, in the can for Thor: Love and Thunder. But before that, we will need to see a Miss Marvel trailer, and so that is also out there as well. So I think we will see a Miss Marvel trailer before we see a Thor Love and Thunder trailer. If I had to pick a month for Thor Love and Thunder, I would have to say sometime next month. I would say towards the middle to end of next month.
I could see it. Yeah.
But yeah.
Any more questions after that?
Yeah, we got one more from our illustrious man in the chat, S Bubs, saying, "Will Black Panther 2 get delayed, switched in the schedule? If so, will this be announced in the next 3 months?" And stick around for our post credits discussion, S Bubs. I'm gonna table that one, so you're gonna have to either stick around in the live thing or tune in tomorrow during at the end of our post credits discussion. I'm gonna table that because that's gonna be a big topic of our discussion.
Yes, yes, it will be.
So, all right, let me pull up the last week's Fact or Fictions, and our first one. These were all from Brent. Number one, Doctor Strange will team with multiple variants in the finale of the film, similar to What If. 63% said fact, 37% said fiction. What say you, Clay? Do you think he'll be teaming with multiple variants to fight back?
I really love the idea of the on your right. I think so. Whether it be variants of himself or if it's legitimate variants across the multiverse, I think it would be a very cool idea. I think it will happen. I'm gonna say fact as well.
Well, we have a first coming with these next two.
Oh,
both of them 50-50. The fans, the listeners are divided. We've had 50-50 before, but we've never had more than one in a single kind of 1, 2, 3. So first 50-50 was Chris Hemsworth will play Loki, will appear in Loki season 2.
See, I remember listening to you guys do this one. This is a rough one. I
know I was a factist because of Hemsworth and how, I mean, we're going to see physically appear because we know he did the voice of Throg.
Yes. And he technically appeared in the hologram of the history of Loki.
True.
Which was the, first 5 minutes of Endgame or whatever, or Infinity War, shall I say. But going back to what Snell was saying is, what does the story require? Is it going to be the pull of Loki finding Thor, or is it Thor finding Loki and the context of it? My heart says yes, but my brain says no.
It's sometimes a hard thing to reconcile. I've been in that difficult position before. All right, well, the other fact or fiction that was 50-50 was Chris Pratt will be in Guardians of the Galaxy 4. I know I was fiction. That was another harder head kind of thing. But I stuck with fiction on that one.
I'm gonna go with fiction as well. It's hard because I mean the argument was, he is kind of the face of the Guardians. I know it's an ensemble cast, but we have very much seen the fact that Batista is done. He's done after this. but Chris Pratt being the like we said, the face of the Guardians, he's done a lot of other projects,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that has made his way into getting into some bigger roles. And I'm not going to say better because I mean it's really all subjective at that point. Uh, but I
Getting
think he will move to bigger pastures, brighter pastures after Marvel.
yeah.
Because he has a lot going on. He's gonna be Garfield. He's gonna be Mario.
I'm still having trouble reconciling that, but
Oh man.
some of the rest of the cast I'm okay with, and that one was like, sure, we can go. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Let's cast Chris Pratt and everything. All right, so all right, Clay, you're on the hot seat. Hit
Yes.
me with them.
So I told Chris that this day was always bound to happen. Of course, anybody in the GOA is welcome to jump on the show. And I was like, am I ever going to be able to remember any kind of fact or fictions that were in the past, so that way I don't, muck up and do a repeat of something that y'all have already done. And this is technically a repeat of a question that I've actually had on as a listener for Marvel Alliance, but I'm gonna cheat and make it into a fact or fiction.
There we
So,
go, DC, always cheating on us.
in the next 5 years, Marvel will have novelization continuity books out in publication. The reason why I asked this, or the reason why I put this out in fact or fiction, is for one, I'm really loving the High Republic stuff that is going on in Star Wars right now. Star Wars has always been famous for putting out books. Now there is a whole legacy line or legends line that isn't continuity, but High Republic is.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that is, the Batman recently had a mini novel that was, or I can't remember exactly what the actual proper name for it is, but it has an in continuity novel for the Batman. It's a prequel novel.
Yes.
Um, Other movies have done this before in the past that aren't comic book related. Uh, but DC has recently, in the last 3 years, been pushing heavily on actual DC novels, not necessarily anything tied to books, but they
Mm-hmm.
have been pushing through novels. This gets them, bigger sales in stuff like Target, Barnes and Nobles, Walmart, kind of your bigger retailers. So it dawned on me, with all of that in mind, would Marvel ever do this? SPub says, hopefully there would be. I would love reading movie novelizations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and SPub's not necessarily novelizations for movies that have come out, but say continuity novels that are like, hey, something that is in between, like something that would be in between a Disney Plus show and a movie, because
Yeah.
right now you could technically say some of the Disney Plus stuff is in between the movies. Well, let's go in between that.
Yeah, I mean we've referred back to they've done comics that are kind of movie kind of tie-ins and things like that, like Fury's Week at that point. That was something
As
that.
as somebody who was working at a comic shop while those were coming out,
Mhm.
those did not sell very well.
Yes, and when Brent and I reread that last year, we said, okay, this was kind of because we were rereading it because we knew one of the What If episodes was going to be kind of taking be based off that
Mhm.
miniseries. So, but you're right, most of them do not do well at that point. Even on the DC side, they don't do as well either. So,
Yeah.
I I think that if they can see then everything's a numbers game. Everything comes down to profits at that point. So if they can see, even if I'm not sure if it will be one kind of like how they do it in Star Wars. Just because like you said, Star Wars has a big history in the novels. So there's already a base of fans that are looking for that. So they may try to do it as maybe kind of a young adult in a sense, in that kind of way. I'm
Mhm.
not sure yet that they are ready for the novelization side of for for the kind of like older crowd. Not saying they wouldn't be used to it, but there's just they do comics.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna say, could it be? Maybe, but I'm gonna say fiction for this one just because I think the numbers aren't there to support it yet.
I'm also going to say, surprisingly, fiction. The reason why is, like you said, they have comics. Feige right now is the helm of everything, and right now, we're getting what is it, Shang-Chi.
Mhm.
His story is kind of being pushed in the same narrative of what the movie he just recently shared with the general audience. We're getting introduced to the Ten Rings, so anything that he kind of wants to make, the mainstream audience see for these movies, he can do it in these comics. He doesn't have to put out an actual novel to do that. Um, I w- I would love it, but I don't think it'll happen.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, when I put out the idea that like young adults, well, that really doesn't really make it canon. It just makes it kind of a fun story that says, yeah, it happened, but we don't talk about that. It was a young adult novel. But
Yeah.
in case of Star Wars, that is very much canon. It's just probably not as highly put into the canon as the main novels are.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. And SBub says right here, if they promoted them well, I bet they would do great. Have it be about an important slash popular character like
Yeah,
Wanda, for example, to start things off, and I bet people would at least be interested. Huh.
they.
I agree with that.
I mean, they've gotten into the podcast game because again, they see with some of their kind of adventures and things like that.
Hmm.
Wolverine. There was one, and I was really excited about it. And I was gonna message the group about it. I found a couple weeks ago they were doing a history of the creation of Black Panther and all the kind of backstories and things like that behind it. Yeah, you have to pay for that. It's one of those extras you have to pay for
Yeah,
subscription
it's the
wise.
Earwolf stuff. I
Yeah.
have very much been following their audio adventures just because me as an audio engineer,
Hmm.
it is something that I'm wanting to get into after I graduate. Is the kind of like the Batman audio adventures and stuff like that. They've been doing a whole lot of the Wastelanders stuff. They did
Yes.
Hawkeye.
Hmm.
They did Star Lord. They are just recently. I need to look at it if it's released yet, but they're doing Black Widow. Um, and they are also adding comics to that to tie it up even more.
Hmm.
So, I mean, Heinz always says Marvel is a well-oiled machine. They have things put in place. I think having novels would just be one too many, probably.
Yeah. But again, show them the numbers of how it can work, and I guarantee you that it would happen at that point. But right now, they don't need to.
Yeah.
So, all right, what's your third one?
Well, that was my first one.
Okay, first off, first one. Jeez, it just said we
Yeah.
talked about it for so long. There we go.
Second one is uh, Daredevil will be rebooted with his MCU introduction. That is my second factor fiction. I do not think that I'm going to go ahead and say fact. I do not think that they will take the uh, Netflix show and use it as canon for their MCU story.
Gotcha. So you are saying that Netflix will be completely abandoned and they will start from scratch.
Hmm.
So
Not saying
okay.
that they can't use the same characters because clearly,
Yep.
they all know something is going on.
Hmm.
But I do think that they are going to start from scratch.
Yeah. I've been kind of the proponent. Brent's done a factor fiction like they will be fully canon. You're taking the opposite side of that at that point. I will take the middle Switzerland route of that some stuff may be canonized, other things will be forgotten about and not acknowledged. Um, See,
A
that's
la
just
not
tough.
bullseye.
Yeah, I'll enough. Yes, we have to go back to that trivia because it is true. We don't ever see him named as Bullseye. um, the I think Disney's ready to experiment with the idea of there were good ideas with the Netflix series. I think that some of the stuff will be brought back into canon, but not all of it. So I'm going to say fiction of complete abandonment of the Netflix storyline.
Okay. Okay. SPub says, I think it'll be a soft reboot, though. Um, I
Which would be kind of my idea in the
Yeah,
sense of some stories, but not all.
yeah. And my third, you kind of gave your semi answer to this already, talking about the release dates of
Mm-hmm.
Marvel and Disney Plus shows. I said in the next 3 years, Disney Plus will make plans for a multi-day release schedule for Disney Plus shows.
I would say if what we talked about with Miss Marvel would be true, and they do keep to that idea that release on the same day, same two different properties releasing on the same day, they're gonna have to see numbers. Now it is unfair in the sense of comparison to a Miss Marvel to an Obi-Wan Kenobi, as we kind of talked about, that it would
Hmm.
almost have to be Obi-Wan Kenobi going against Loki.
Yes.
That would have to be something along those lines to get a true test of how does this stack up. What you have to do. I mean, this would be a. I love digging in a day like this. A little different in my current job. I love digging in a day, but this kind of stuff really fascinates me in the sense of how do you break stuff like this down and what do you look for. So if it looks like they are cannibalizing the numbers on each other, and it doesn't look like recovery and things like that, then I would say fact for that. And so I, within 3 years, I'm going to go fact, but it's not a hard fact. I could be easily swayed back to fiction. But again, if the numbers do, if they do this more than a couple of times within the next year and the numbers are, they hurt each other, they end up hurting each other more than helping, then they would probably consider that. It would be a question of who do they value more at that point? Is it the value of who premieres first versus the other, or who gets to hold on to the original release of Wednesdays?
Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and say fact. Now, I did change it immediately. I was gonna say within the next year, so
Oh yeah, then I'd say
2023,
absolutely not. Yeah.
but I said 3 years just to give it a little bit more time because right now, I mean, as a Star Wars fan, we have seen the lack of content, but the assumption of a lot of planning.
Mm-hmm.
So we could see a lot more content coming from Star Wars within the next
Yeah.
3 years. We see how well, Marvel has been putting everything else out. Uh, I think there could be a big possibility of, I don't know when it or if it's already out, but Willow, that series,
You're right.
uh, will eventually come out as well. That is still a big enough IP to get people back into Disney Plus. Is that going to take a Wednesday slot or is it going to take another slot?
It
That'll be very interesting to see.
because again, we do have gaps. We do have significant gaps between series premieres at that point.
Yes.
So it could be depending on how many episodes Willow is. That is something that they could consider as well. So yeah, I like I said, it's a fact for within 3 years. It'll just be based on numbers. So yeah, good fact or fiction. So all right, I will make sure to put those out on Sunday afternoon as always for you to vote on and look into that. So. No comic book club this week. Brent obviously not being here. We have to conclude Born Again with issue 233. So we're going to punt that till next week. Brent does send his apologies for that one because, again, he was also looking forward to starting Spider Shadow next week as well. So everything's getting pushed back a week. So, again, our new comic book corner after we wrap up Born Again next week will be Chip Zdarsky's Spider Shadows. Now, I've already read it, but I am very, very, very excited to reread it again.
I'm excited to get started on it for your guys' comic book club. I have them, but I had not really had time to read them. But since you guys are going to be talking about it on it here, I was like, okay, time to pull those back out and start reading those. So I'm looking forward to it as well.
Yeah, and people, again, there was a what if issue of what if he kept this Spider-Man, but again, this is a 5-issue series of looking at the full run of what would possibly happen. So, and it's Chip Zdarsky. The man is like Tom Taylor and others of the like he is just knocking out of the park. And man, if you are not reading Daredevil and Devil's Reign, um, it,
I have issue 5 loaded
yeah.
up. I'm gonna be reading
Now,
it
now,
tonight.
did you keep out of Elektra last week? Because I did not find out about the news of not reading it until I started reading Elektra. I was like, oh, well, shoot, I
Wait,
shouldn't have read that.
I was supposed to not read that?
You were not supposed to read Elektra until after you read Devil's Reign this week.
Darn it.
But
so
but what I
so
will
that
but
makes sense. So there's
yes,
something at the end of Woman Without Fear that I
yes,
was like, that doesn't make any sense.
yep.
Now I kind of got spoiled on Devil's Reign 5, I
Well, I will
guess.
put spoils in quotes.
Yeah.
I will put spoils in quotes because, like with everything, and I've seen solicitations for when Daredevil returns as a proper series again, it's not what you think.
Oh, I'm sure. And with how Soul ended his book and how, Chip brought, everything to a beginning
Hmm.
with his, it's comics.
Yep.
So I will see how it plays out. I'm looking very forward to it. But yeah, Devil's Reign is definitely a book. I've already pre-ordered uh the trade for that. So
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to grabbing it all and reading it as a whole when it comes
Yeah.
out.
The tie-ins, meh. I have not been too impressed with the tie-ins.
I've enjoyed one or two, but there's some that I'm just like, this isn't really. There's no real need for it, you know.
Yeah.
There's been some character moments for I will say Rhino. There's been some fun
The
character moments because
the villains for hire has been good.
yeah, there has been a lot of play with Rhino and his morality recently, in the last few years that has made him a character that I have really been interested to see other writers kind of tackle with him.
Hmm.
Uh, I find him to be in the same kind of limelight as a Killer Croc. He
Yeah.
has kind of that like monstrous look, but there's always a story that gives them heart that you're like, oh, okay, I kind of care about this character.
Hmm.
So I really love anybody who writes Rhino.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we've come to the end of the episode, and again, want to thank you, Clay, for jumping on and taking the co-hosting seat at that point, and definitely would love to have you back on again, not just for reviews. So the chair is always open as well.
Yeah, that would be great. Maybe I am really looking forward to some She-Hulk, to be completely honest. I
Okay.
have been picking up some of her most recent series, but also going back to some of her classic series, and I did not think I was going to enjoy it as much as I am. So I would really love to maybe be on one or two of those reviews
Yeah, of
for
course.
the She-Hulk series.
Definitely, definitely. So we'll look forward to that. Well, Clay, tell people how they can follow you and plug your lovely shows.
Yes, so you can always find me at Fanboy Clay on Twitter. In the bio, you can find the link tree to all of the shows that I host, that including DC Alliance, Batman News Weekly, Ranger Alliance, and of course Star Wars Alliance.
There you go. Check it all out at that point. And you can follow this show on Twitter at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at Chris Balgi. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. You can follow Brent on Twitter at BrentTech Prime. Gonna plug Brent one more time. Check out the final episode of Fans Without Borders, their review of the Batman. It is their swan song. It is a great show. Pretty much everyone on this network is a fan of that show, and in some way, shape, or form has been inspired by both what Ray and Brent have done. And it is a great pleasure to have Brent be part of this network at that point. But yeah, so check out that final episode of Fans Without Borders. It's definitely a good one. Also, want to again plug our sponsor, organicpricebooks.com. Again, use that code MarvelGUA at checkout for $2 off every single order. You can email the show at Marvel Alliance Podcast at gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network at GUA Pod Network. Feel free to tweet, email if you want to provide feedback, ask questions, fact or fictions. Continue to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever platform of choice may be. Thank you all in the chat for joining us live. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right, so S-Bubs has been waiting patiently. This was something that when this happened, we were recording Thursday night. This came out Wednesday. DC made a huge shift of scheduling that took us a little bit by surprise. I took me by surprise in that sense that, very quickly kind of going over that Super Pets has been moved to July. Black Adam has now been moved to October. Flash and Aquaman are now moving to 2023. Shazam 2 is now coming out in December. A lot of different shifts, a lot of different plays. What does this mean? How does this play? And S-Bubs had kind of asked us, will Black Panther 2 get delayed, switched in the schedule? If so, will this be announced in the next 3 months, hypothetically? My whole big thing is, if this does happen, what are the pros and cons of Marvel Studios delaying or flipping movie schedules at this point?
It's very frustrating as a fan to get all of this news, especially, we just got off the review of the Batman. We're like, oh man, we have 4 more DC projects to be reviewing. This is gonna be great.
Hyped.
It's gonna be awesome. And now we have 1. Well, technically 2. With Black Adam and Shazam 2. In the implication of Marvel, though,
sorry,
the hierarchy and power of the DC universe has been delayed,
but still coming out this year.
In the implications of Marvel, though, in talks of what S-Bubs was asking as a question, the Marvels and Black Panther 2.
Mm-hmm.
We have seen a lot happen with Black Panther's production, constantly being delayed and delayed and delayed. From what I am seeing with Aquaman and The Flash specifically, is VFX being the key factor for those.
Yeah, James Wan going on record and saying there was no chance in hell that was happening in December.
Yeah. And for Black Panther, I can't even pretend to know exactly the amount of VFX that they absolutely need in this movie. But if it's anything like the last, it's going to be a lot,
Yeah. I mean, we've seen some of the a few behind the scenes. There are water sequences in this film. I mean, if you listen to this show, that we have talked about the rumors of Namor being introduced in this film at that point. So Wakanda versus the Atlanteans. They think that either last week or this week or upcoming, they're shooting in Puerto Rico for some more principal photography. So it's not done yet. And so here's the thing, and I'll take the idea of video games. How many times have we seen video games get delayed and delayed and delayed, and people are like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I just want to play this game. But I will point to a number of games, a la Cyberpunk and others of the like, that just try to keep to a release date despite other delays, and it comes out, and it is just bad. Abysmal.
Yes.
And so
Cyberpunk, there was No Man's Sky back in the day as well. Yeah.
Delays, yes, are frustrating. Did I want to see Flash and Aquaman 2 this year? Absolutely. Am I disappointed that they're not coming out? Yes. Will I be disappointed that Black Panther 2 switches with the Marvels? Not because I don't like the idea of the Marvels. I'm just disappointed I don't get to see it right then. But if it gives me a better movie, the VFX are solid, the reshoots are not rushed, and we get a better film, yes, delay it at that point. If the Marvels are much further along, then Flash 27. No, it'll be Flash 2099. This is a Marvel show. It's 2099.
No Man's Flash.
So that's where I'm at. If Can I see it getting delayed? Most certainly, with everything they've gone on. But it's if it gives me the better film, delay it.
And I totally understand that, and I do feel the same way. I was in the very wrong headspace yesterday. The
You were,
GUA knows
you were
my
very much.
situation of where I was yesterday, just because of car trouble. Everybody hates it, but on top of all of that, and then I see that all of my DC content is just out the window. I was kind of ticked off. Um, but here
Clay Uncensored is much more is very much interesting in our chat.
um but I agree. I agree that if you have something that is not finished, I do not want to see it. There is a lot of people out there that were ready to watch Zack Snyder's Justice League with just stills and unfinished CGI, and I wouldn't have watched it. I wouldn't have enjoyed it, to be completely honest, because
Hmm.
I am not that kind of viewer when it comes to movies. Um, you know, I I can't remember the last. I know that I've seen a movie like that before. I can't remember the last one that I had seen like that. But it there was no wow factor. There was no like, yes, you could be like, oh, just use your imagination and whatnot. But these are big budgeted films. This is part of the Marvel machine, as Heinz likes to say that it is. I want to see these Marvel films in the
Hmm.
same limelight as what they always have been. So if that means Black Panther 2 is pushed back and the Marvels is pushed forward, I'm okay with that. For one, I enjoyed Ms. Marvel. I enjoyed that movie.
No,
Being
Captain
able,
Marvel. Captain Marvel.
yeah, sorry, Captain Marvel. I enjoyed Captain Marvel. Seeing, the Marvels and seeing that story continued, as well as, seeing Miss Marvel play around with all of that, because it's still rumored that she might be in there.
Hmm.
Um, so it says here, hopefully the delays reshoots are for the better.
Yep,
Yes,
Rodimus Prime
100%.
Raven.
Because there is, there was a lot, we've talked about it before, drama with some of the stuff that has been going behind the scenes with Black Panther. Seems to be all worked out. But I think it will majorly be just the reshoots, just the VFX work and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think the one con, in the sense of, we can relate this to Spider-Man: No Way Home and Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness, because those movies were switched in order because of pandemics, which led to story changes and things that were happening. America Chavez was supposed to be in Spider-Man: No Way Home and introduced
Mhm.
in and brought in that way. So the con is, does this hurt story? Does this change some things and create some rushes with that? They probably learned a lot of lessons from the switch with No Way Home and that at that point. So let's hope it doesn't. S. Bubs is saying the de aging on Sam Jackson and Captain Marvel is still amazing. I think people don't talk about it too much because it looks so real, and then you forget. You do. It is. If you listen to our Patreon discussion, that's one of the things we talked about how good it looks. But yeah, it's one of these things that delays now at this point are okay. It's frustrating, but and again, we continue to get content, and yes, you quote unquote lost a movie for DC slate in the sense of, from what it was, but it's one of those things. The movies are still going to come out. We just got to wait just a little bit longer, and in the end, maybe one day, Clay, maybe will that make you like Michael Keaton as Batman? Maybe they'll improve it just a little bit. I'm not too
Well,
confident that that'll happen, but
I
it could
said
happen.
that that the Batman made me even more excited for the Flash, because I'll finally get to see a comic booky Batman, and now I won't even be able to do that until 2023. So we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see. But again, if and when there's a delay for Marvel, the show to check out and follow will be this show. But all right, well, hope you enjoyed this discussion. Thank you for waiting for us, S Bubs, for answer your question. But everyone, continue to stay safe. Brennan will be back next week. Check y'all later.
See ya.